Maria Mercedes burst onto the scene when she was 16, winning not only New Faces but also Young Talent Time. Since then, she has been a stalwart in television, films and theatre. She's done a lot of musical theatre and also straight plays. It's just one or two of her many, many achievements. Maria was able to kiss Hugh Jackman every night during one of her plays. I'll let her tell you about that. And she's also fulfilled a personal ambition to play Maria Callas in Masterclass, which was a very special opportunity for her. Lots more to talk about with Maria, so let's start. Thank you, Maria, for coming along this afternoon.
I'm so happy to be here, honestly.
I'm thrilled to have you here. So, you started amazingly at 16, winning these extraordinary national talent contests. How did that happen?
Look, in all honesty, I was doing some acting classes at the William Bates Academy of Dramatic Art in Carlton, on top of a petrol station. Look, he was a great teacher. He had a lot of patrons like June Bronhill and Jill Perryman.
Wow.
None of us got paid to be in his productions. He used to write and direct these plays. So as you progressed in the classes, you'd be cast. And the funniest time, I was probably 13, and I had to sing I Walk Along the Streets of Sorrow, a Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Oh. She was a prostitute, right? You have to understand my background, being first generation immigrant, and always trying to fit in. School days were pretty hard for us Greeks and Italians. My whole agenda growing up was fitting in, being accepted, and we were reminded that we were different. So I used any opportunity to be the lark, to be the fool, to be the clown. You know, I'd be standing on top of the school desk doing my Tom Jones impersonation, right? And Young Talent Time came on. The kids at school, my friend said, why don't you go on Young Talent Time? They're having auditions. I thought, yeah, I'll do that. Then I'll really be popular, right? So I went along to Lewis Young Productions.
Wow.
I was so nervous, but Leslie Shaw, bless her, the producer of Young Talent Time at the time, and she sent me to Voila Ritchie, who was John Farnham's singing teacher. And my dad took me along. Dad was working class, working probably 2 jobs at the time in factories, Mum also. And I begged Dad, I said, Dad, you've got to find the money. I've got to go to singing school. And because he was already paying for acting classes. You know, I've never been one for applying myself seriously. And Voila, at the time, she was really hard on me. She said, you're not doing the exercises. I'm going to tell your father he's wasting his money. Shit, I better start applying myself. So I started doing Mia 100 times a day, right? I went on, I got right through to the finals, but I had to wait probably a month for the grand final. And I thought, what shall I do? Oh, let me telegram the New Faces producers. They contacted me to say, yes, we'd love you on. So concurrently, I was doing New Faces and Young Talent Time on a different network, and the stars aligned, I guess, and I won both.
That is amazing.
And that was 1973. I sang on the Graham Kennedy in Melbourne Tonight.
Oh, wow.
As a 16-year-old. And Graham made such a fuss about my name that Kevin Lewis, the producer of Young Talent Time, said, look, I think we need to change your name. Because if he's starting to, belittle you, then everyone's going to jump on that bandwagon. He says, I've got the perfect name for you. We're going to name you Mercedes. So I went home and I told Dad, and Dad was so disappointed. He said, what's wrong with Mercedes? I said, sorry, Dad, but now I'm a professional. At 17. I need to change my name. So he was a bit, upset about it until because Dad used to chaperone me to all my cabaret shows. And then he started being called Mr. Mercedes. So he loved it. But I was also going to the Crawford Film and Television School for my acting. And they would handpick who they wanted. I got to do all these guest roles at such a young age.
That's amazing.
Because I was in that pool of talent.
How did you get into that?
Look, I just phoned up and applied.
Wow.
Right? I'd always wanted to be a film star. Right. Well, that changed very quickly as I progressed. Though I love the live theatre side of things, that William Bates wasn't providing the film technique. And as it turned out, to this day, because of William Bates' incredible teaching technique, that I'm very theatrical, and I always have to play it down. I have to internalise a lot. You know,
yes.
I think I'm not doing anything, but apparently it's fine. So it's always a reminder, you know, before I tackle any film. You know.
And that is one of the really key differences, isn't it?
True.
Between the two. Yeah.
I know that there is a film technique and I know that there is a theatrical technique. So, and I knew that I needed to learn that. And so I went to the Crawford Film and Television School, which was based out at Abbotsford.
So were you doing this while you're at school, or okay?
I was.
So that must have been really extraordinary as well. I mean, you got into this in the first place to be popular at school, and then you win these contests, and you're doing all of this professional stuff. How did that affect you standing at school?
It affected it greatly.
Yeah.
The thing was that I was being sent to do concerts all over Australia with, say, you know, top people of the time in that genre of music, like your Jamie Redferns and Dennis Walters. And I'd be chuffing off, you know, 3-4 weeks at a time and having to come back to school and try and catch up. And so the headmaster at the time called my dad and myself into the office and said, look, you either continue with this newfound profession or you commit yourself to school. And so I said to Dad, I really want to do what I'm doing. So I left school. I didn't even complete Form 5. I regretted it. I really did, because I loved school. I loved art and music and drama. So I missed that aspect. And for years I dreamed that I'd be going back to Brunswick High trying to complete my schooling.
You haven't had the 3-year graduate course. You learned on the job, and the things like that you were just describing, the Crawford School, are an extraordinary opportunity.
Yeah.
Nothing like that is around now.
No, far from it.
Do you think what do you think of the benefits and disbenefits of going down the path you went rather than doing the 3-year degree course?
There's no way that I could have uprooted myself and gone and done that, you know. I don't think Dad would have approved, and I didn't want to leave my family anyway. For years, I had this phobia that because I hadn't done a legitimate degree in acting and performing, that somehow I was a fraud.
Wow.
And that was a stigma that stayed with me for a long time until I did Chess the musical, and I was speaking to David Whitney, a fellow actor, and we were just about to walk out to do this amazing moment in the show. And I said, you know what, you're so lucky. You've done NIDA. You're a NIDA graduate, you know. He said, now cut that out. You actually gained the experience that we had to try after the 3 years. There are so much more people wanting to be performers and actors and singers and dancers now, and they're all coming out with a degree and everything, but we don't have the work or the opportunities to support, you know.
It's absolutely true.
When I started in the 70s, it was an incredible time in Australia. There was so much money being pumped into the arts. We had the renaissance of the movie industry. You know, Gough Whitlam, bless him, you know.
Absolutely.
He may not have managed all the money very well, but gee, he made the arts such a great time. Say yes, you know. And we didn't have, you know, the performing arts schools that we have now.
You've mentioned Sunset Boulevard, you've mentioned chess. What's your favourite experience of being in a musical?
I remember auditioning for Godspell, and the American team were out. And in those days, it was a bit of a cattle call.
Okay.
So you had to come out, sing, and then you'd have to be in a group with people dancing. Yeah. Now, if you remember Barbara Streisand in Funny Girl, when she's bumping into everybody, that was me.
Oh.
Right? I had no idea about dancing.
Okay.
I wasn't Greek, right? So she would just sigh and pat me on the back and say, there will come a time. And John Dietrich, who I'd done Special Squad with and Bluey, he decided he was going to produce and direct Nine, the musical. And this was in 86. He was auditioning. I was dreaded to go along to do it, and I heard the two songs that the role of the wife sings, and my heart nearly jumped out of my chest. And it sounded so right for me. And it was European, and it had the European sensibilities. And I just felt, you know, the turning of a key and a door opening. I sang the two songs, and then I had to come back Christmas Eve to audition my final audition. And as I was leaving, John said, "Stop." And I thought, yes. He said, "Oh, look, it's Christmas. Merry Christmas, you've got the role."
Oh,
right?
Wow.
We did our own, you know, Australian cast recording, which won the ARIA award that year. And it is considered the best cast recording of any production in the world.
Wow, it's amazing.
Maury Yeston came to our final dress rehearsal because he wrote it with Arthur Coburn, the writer, the script writer, and they both cried at our dress rehearsal because it was the way that Maury had envisaged. And he's gone on record to say that I was his definitive Louisa. And so from there I did chess, and I did The World Goes Round, and I auditioned for Sunset Boulevard, which I really wanted. And I remember being so gutted at the time when I didn't get it. I was in tears, literally, because it was such an incredible role for an actress to play Norma Desmond.
But you were the alternate.
Well,
what does that mean?
Okay, they contacted my agent, and I thought, what the hell is an alternate?
Yeah.
What does that mean? And she said, well, basically, you get 2 shows a week. So I went in and I auditioned for Trevor, and I was an upstart. I said, "Now, Trevor, did you receive the video of me auditioning the first time? Like, have you made a mistake?" Sorry, Deb, if you're watching. I was just so desperate to get it. He says, "Yes, I did." Anyway, a day later, I was rehearsing for The World Goes Round at the time at the Opera House. They called my agent to have a meeting. They said to my agent, "We want to offer Maria the alternate. Trevor Nunn wants her as the alternate. She will do 2 shows a week, and she will have publicity, and there'll be an opening night for her." Oh. So they don't do that anymore.
No.
So it was quite a big deal. So I thought to myself, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to play Norma Desmond. As scary as that role is, I need to do it. And if this is what it's going to take to do it, I'm going to do it.
So this is the experience with Hugh Jackman.
Working with Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
And Hugh, God love him, he had come to see chess when he was studying at Whopper.
Okay.
And he loved it so much, and loved me so much, that he missed the plane going back, and he came and saw the show again. But my first performance, it wasn't my actual opening night, but my first performance, I was shitting myself. It was huge. I think there's about 13 or 14 songs with the acting, with the incredible journey and arc,
Yes.
and losing it at the end. Hugh was ill for my last dress rehearsal, but he decided he was going to come on that night. And I will never forget every opportunity where that side of his face was, you know, towards the audience, and if I was there, he would be winking and encouraging me, and he was the greatest source of support during that time for me. Incredible person to work with, so generous, so giving. And I have to say that we recognised that special magic that certain performers possess, and you just know that they're going to be something extraordinary.
Yeah. Switching gears a little bit.
Yes.
You mentioned a couple of times about doing guest roles on television.
Yeah.
And you actually started very early in your career doing that. Now, for me, that's the scariest thing to do, because you're only there for a day or maybe 2 days. You've got a couple of scenes, and it's a really, really hard thing to fit into something that's ongoing.
Yeah.
Everybody on the set, whether they're cast, whether they're crew, there is a camaraderie.
Yeah.
They're a team, and you're outside. And that's an incredibly hard thing to come in and do your work in that environment.
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
I have to go back to when I was, you know, a kid doing these guest appearances. We never really thought about it. You know, because when you're young, you just want to do the job, and you're so excited. I remember my first guest role. My dad was waiting for me at the airport because I was coming back from Perth, and he had the script under his arm. He was so proud. I said, "Dad, what have you got?" He said, "It's a guest role on Division 4. I didn't sleep. I was so excited because I had to start work the following day.
Wow.
Right? You know, the days before emails and mobile phones, you know. People just lived, you know, very spontaneously, and you just committed to things. My dad said yes to the job, you know, for me, because he was my guardian. And also in those days, things weren't produced so quickly either. There was a lot more time taken. But I did Homicide, Bluey, Cop Shop, Special Squad for the ABC, and then Patrol Boat. You know, it just goes on and on and on. As you get older, and the industry has changed a lot, and the way they produce things has changed a lot as well. It's a lot more quicker. The regular actors, as much as they want to be inclusive of you, they really don't have time, because they've got a crap load of lines to learn, you know. I haven't had the opportunity to be part of a regular cast all that often. Prisoner would have been one. Kick for SBS was another one. But I've had really interesting guest roles.
You have.
Things have changed so much, and I think we change as performers. And the longer we stay in it, I think there's more anxiety.
Yeah. Yep.
I wish I could be that 17-year-old girl again. You're still in the moment. You have to work to be in that moment as an adult actor. You know, you have these voices that try and sabotage you. Well, I'll be honest, I had a nervous breakdown at 21 because of the pressures of the industry, of things not going the way that they should have for me, management taking advantage of my youth, being ripped off financially, this bright young girl with a big voice who legitimately wanted to be taken seriously was all of a sudden being dressed in bikinis, and I was almost the page 3 girl, you know. I survived my nervous breakdown, which was a great thing as well. It made me look at life a lot differently, what I put into my body differently. But also during 9, John Dietrich was so intent on producing the same show night after night. People were flying in from overseas to see this production.
Because that's another thing I wanted to talk to you about, is how do you keep fresh in a very long run? And if you're having to reproduce exactly the same performance every night. It must have been a nightmare.
It's insanity. You do reach a point, and you know, I was 30 at the time, 29, 30, and the pressure that I had in 9 to keep reproducing the quality of the work, that was his way of directing. So when you're on stage with him, you've got the producer and the director and the actor, you know. And I remember we had an actress, Peter Tapano, who had to go off and do Fields of Fire. And so we had Sharon Lee Hill fill in for her. She only had a week to learn Claudia Nardi's role. And I was so nervous for her that I ended up swallowing her anxiety. And then I started to get stage fright. And I had never had it before in my life. And I still have it to this day. I've just learned to control it.
Wow, that's amazing. And you've tackled some enormous roles too. I really want to talk about Masterclass because that was a huge role and a very, very special performance. It was just wonderful.
And also a role that you and I are quite connected to because of the Elizabeth Kemp.
Experience that we both had.
God bless her soul. Because you and I did her dream workshop, and we both wear our medals.
Yes.
I was in Sydney and I spoke with Anthony and I said, I'm really disillusioned. He said, Elizabeth Kemp. He said, look her up on the internet. She's coming out to Australia. You have to do the workshop. And so, and I was still trying to sabotage myself because I hurt my back.
Yes, you did.
And I wasn't going to attend. And it was a spiritual connection thing, you know. And so I went to the osteopath, he strapped me up, and I didn't know who to bring into that room for that week. As you know, we had to choose a character. First I was going to do Jane Goodall, who I loved. Because I'm an animal activist and I just loved what she did in her life. And then one morning I woke up and I thought of Maria Callas.
There she was.
And there she was. So I researched her and I thought, wow, this is an incredible story. And I see some parallels here between her and me. Greek parents, trying to fit in, feeling ugly. She's dark, she wanted to be blonde like I did. I thought, that's who I'm going to bring to Elizabeth Kemp. And gee, it was an incredible time, wasn't it?
It was a wonderful experience. That was an amazing workshop.
And it gave birth to an opportunity, and Elizabeth, bless her soul, said, you have to do Masterclass. And I thought, wow, how's that going to happen, right? And she said she wanted to direct me in it.
That would have been extraordinary.
Extraordinary. A friend of mine, Paul, who I did Love Never Dies with, an opera singer. One day I want to play Maria Callas. So a friend of his saw that and contacted Cameron Lukey, who was desperately trying to figure out who he would cast as Maria Callas. I get a message on Facebook to say, I'm producing Masterclass. I would love you to play Maria Callas.
Oh my God.
So, you know, Elizabeth's seed totally bloomed. And I have to say, that was another scary role.
Yes.
You know.
That's almost a one-woman show.
It is.
And it's an enormous journey.
And having to play a multitude of people. You know, Terence McNally was so clever in exposition, you know, of not only Maria, but also her husband, who was seeing her as a meal ticket. Her mother, who was vicariously trying to live a famous artistic life through her. Onassis, who wanted in with the jet set and to be considered legitimate.
How did you prepare for that huge role?
I went online and you know, researched there. I watched everything I could on film with her being interviewed. Her accent was a very precise accent, but also I have to say, if I hadn't done the Elizabeth Kemp, you know, workshop, there is no way that I could have immersed myself and have found the treasures and the conduit.
So just for people who don't know about Elizabeth's work, what we did was we worked at some really critical turning points for the character, both in their childhood and in their adulthood, and really interpreted those through through working together and creating the moments.
That's right, because we would, you know, have to bring them to life as children, as adolescents, as adults, in those crucial moments in their lives, where Elizabeth would have us facing that child's shadow that is so huge, you know, and bring that child of Maria into the light. And she did that as an adult, Maria as an adult, and facing
the demons.
The demons, and understanding where those demons came from and why we give birth to those demons, and becoming friends with the shadow. Because if you don't become friends with the shadow, it swallows you up. And so that was paramount. So the main preparation was that week with Elizabeth. So
from that to Lady Gaga, who used exactly the same process for A Star Is Born, which is amazing.
Yeah, I was very fortunate, as you know, to see Elizabeth for the very last time in her apartment last July. Was last July.
Yeah, it was just last
Time flies, and I was so wanting to ask because I love Lady Gaga as a performer, as a musician, as a singer. She is extraordinary. But it's different to actually, you know, manifest that as an actor. And I'll never forget, Elizabeth said she is like another Anna Magnani. She says, you will be amazed. So I'm hanging out to see A Star Is Born.
Absolutely.
And you know, they had Elizabeth on set for the whole time.
Now, we talked about the fact that yours has been quite a long career, and you said that, you know, from time to time you've lost your passion and have found different ways to get it back. How have you managed to stay with your artist during those periods?
That's a great question, because I've seen people drop like flies who I've started with. What's made it easier? I was catapulted to some kind of notoriety and stardom, really, at a young age, where I didn't have to try and convince too many people of my talent, per se. But in personal terms, I've hit some pretty low times in my life where I couldn't find work, where I really contemplated throwing the towel in. There's always that voice that kept saying, keep going, don't give up. And Don Lane, bless his soul, he said, never give up, because at age 18, 19, I was saying to him, I think I'm ready to give up. And he said, don't give up, because your lucky number's coming. And that lucky number was 9, right? But getting back to what you said, I have always tried to, you know, seek the spiritual meaning in life. And I don't think it's an accident what we choose to do in life either. But I don't think there's really any overnight success either. I put the onus back on me. I'm not doing enough. Like at the moment, I'm wanting to get back to singing again, you know, and I'm actually going to join forces with a great singer who I met at my gay friend's wedding. That's a title for a movie, My Gay Friend's Wedding. Greg, and we're going to, you know, do some shows together with the premise of, Mum, I've got something to tell you, okay? Which could be anything, and any song for that matter. So, yeah, I think we're going to debut that sometime next year. So I just think you just got to find things within yourself that you know that you're capable of doing. and not allowing yourself to be swamped with the woe is me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is so much more independent work going on now. So many more people are making their own work.
Yeah.
You know, as you said, there just isn't very much around of the generated by agents, studios or whatever. Yeah. So people are doing a lot more independent work.
They are. Yeah. I mean, Masterclass was an independent production.
Taxidi,
beautiful show, which was an ode to our Greek mothers. You know, beautiful stories of migration. Some are funny, as you know, some are sad, some are dramatic. A tribute to our ethnic mothers. I mean, we're all immigrants, all of us, you know. And the beautiful Greek music, which I hadn't had much of an opportunity to sing.
No.
You know, it was the greatest gift I could have given my mother, to be honest. Yeah, because, as you know, you've seen it, and, you know, there wasn't much of a set. It was just these beautiful lace curtains, 3 chairs, and projection of people leaving on the boats.
Absolutely.
So that was quite empowering for me to do that one. And how powerful, you know, independent theatre is. And I'm so glad it's being recognised. And Taxidi got nominated, as did Masterclass.
You won a Green Room Award, didn't you? Congratulations. It's so deserved.
I'd been nominated so many times.
So what are the Green Room Awards? Tell our audience about the Green Room.
Basically, it's to recognise all facets of performing arts, and they have different categories, I guess. So, you know, musicals, theatre, independent theatre, dance, you name it. They go on for far too long, the actual thing.
And are they're peer voted?
They are. I think it's funny that, you know, you can be in an industry all your life and all of a sudden, you know, you get a little pat on the back. I think it's very funny. It's much appreciated. Lo and behold, I am one of the judges on All Together Now, which is ironic, don't you think? Because I started off on a talent contest, right? And now I'm judging. And it's quite extraordinary to be on the other side.
It must be.
And to be critical, but not critical, but just to try and recognise something, a talent.
So what did you learn being on the other side?
You have to be so open and really put yourself in their shoes, you know. But on the other hand, if it didn't resonate with me or move me, or, you know, they didn't have to be the best singers, but they had to show that they were passionate for me.
And you were saying to me that for you, it's about connection.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, whether I go to see a film or a play or a cabaret artist, I liken it to a religious experience, right? That there is a communion going on between the artist and the audience. Otherwise, we wouldn't do what we do. You know, if we just wanted to perform for ourselves, we just deck out the living room and put on the karaoke and, you know, and live in our own dream world. But it is more than that. And it's more than the applause. You know, as a performer, as an actor, I mean, it's quite different when you're doing film and TV, because your audience is that camera and you try and be as real as possible. But for a theatrical experience, you really want to take that audience on that journey.
It's about how you can change the audience. They've come for an experience which will change them, for some alchemy.
Yeah.
And it is about how you create that alchemy.
Correct, and it is alchemy. And this is not morbid, but I would think, you know, this could be, particularly matinees, this could be the last show they see. Let's make it a good one, right? So, yeah.
So what's next for you, Maria?
I've been doing a few guesties again for Stan TV, a show called Bloom, which has a wonderful premise, which I'm not allowed to talk about it. But I got to work with Brian Brown, who I've admired for a long time.
It's very exciting.
It is exciting, and I was shitting myself come the day of doing my scenes with him. But you know what? He's just a normal bloke who's probably just as scared as what I was, you know?
Yeah.
And we're just going through our lines together, you know, and I got to reconnect with Jackie Weaver again, who I had met during Nine. When she was married to Darren. So it was lovely to connect with her. So I did a guestie on that, and also followed that up. Like, I finished one week, and then the next week I'm doing something else, which I can't talk about. Another very different role for me. You know, Leslie, I just want to keep working and to be challenged. No matter where that takes me, you know.
So you've got the mojo back.
I do. I have the mojo back. My dream is to work on Broadway, and I'm making plans for that. I'm trying to get my green card at the moment. I just want to share my gift, because I think it's a gift and I don't take it for granted, with the world. That's all I want.
That's all you want.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Leslie.
It's been a fantastic conversation.
It's been great.
I really appreciate it.
Me too.
So I've been with Maria Mercedes this afternoon. Thank you so much for watching.